I made these mistakes while working as a warehouse operative, and I got dismissed. I didn't even make it past the probation period. So I want you all to learn from my mistakes. So if you intend to work at Walmart or ASDA or Lidl or Costco, or Amazon, any of these big retail organizations, this video is for you. So I made a video 2 years ago while working at ASDA as a warehouse operative, and that video is the biggest video that I have. That video gave me over 400 subscribers. Yes, a video that has the most views, the most engagement, and that video also gave me the most subscribers. And there's been a lot of follow-up questions. I've seen comments like, do you still work at ASDA? Because after then I've been posting other videos that showed me working somewhere else. So I've been getting a lot of questions like, do you still work at ASDA? The answer is no. I no longer work at ASDA. In fact, I didn't even make it past the probation period. And that's because I made some mistakes. So I want you all to learn from me. Yes, watch this video to the end. I'll tell you the mistakes I made and how to avoid those mistakes. So if you've applied to any of these retail companies, Costco, Walmart, Amazon, all of these companies, and you've been picked, congratulations. However, most organizations, if not all organizations, have what they call probation period. And for you to become fully employed, you have to pass the probation stage. And for some, it's 6 weeks, for some 12 weeks, for some 6 months probation period, for some organizations. But for warehouses, for the ASDA where I worked, the probation period was just 12 weeks, which is 3 months. And for you to become fully staffed, you have to pass the probation period. And guess what? I didn't even make it through the probation period, and that's because I did not meet up with some parameters. So in case you see me looking down, I'm looking at some points that I have written here just so I don't forget. Targets that you have to meet up with for you to actually pass the probation stage and move on to being a permanent staff. Now, what are those targets, you may want to ask? The first one is speed. I'm going to expatiate on this much more later on in the video. Another target is accuracy. The next one is safety, and the last one is reliability. So these 4 targets have like sub points, which I'm going to explain. Okay, so for speed, which some organizations call productivity target, some call it speed, some call it productivity. You have to be able to pick if you're a picker, or if you're sorting, or if you're scanning, or if you're packing, because they have different segments. Some people pick products, some sort, some pack. So let's take picking for example. So for the context of this video, I'm going to focus on picking because that's what I was doing while I was at ASDA. So if you're picking, for instance, now we're talking about speed targets. If you're a picker, depending on the warehouse and the setting or whatever the requirements are. So if you're a picker, for instance, you have to be able to pick a certain amount of items within a certain period of time. For example, if you're a picker, you must be able to pick, let's say, 100 items within an hour. So where I was a picker, and I had a target to pick 90 items within 1 hour. So regardless of the aisle I have to pick things from, and bear in mind, we had A to Z aisles and we had so many floors. So if you're picking an item, for instance, in aisle A, the next one could be in aisle H. And you can't pick another item unless you have closed up with the first one. So you can't even know where you're going next unless you are done with picking the first one. For instance, you're on aisle A currently, and you want to say, and you want to be smart and say, I'm going to pick out every item in aisle A before I go to aisle B. No, you can't do that, because the gun determines where next you will go. You can't just decide where to go. So wherever the gun tells you to go next, that is where you must go, and you have to be there within a certain period of time. So you have to run with your trolley. You have to be quick. So if you are going to aisle H from aisle A, for instance, you have to be quick about it, because you have to pick what you have to pick in aisle H, and then go back to wherever the gun asks you to go next, if that makes sense. So you've stacked up your totes, and then you have to just follow the gun's instructions. So the gun is the main guy that is directing you. That's your best friend for the shift. So you have to pick everything and be directed by the gun. So yes, that's it for speed. You have to pick a particular number of items within a particular time. So you have to be fast. Yes, so for that as well, you have to meet up with a certain percentage, which the minimum I think is between 95% to 100%. You have to at least have 95% for you to be able to pass probation. Bear in mind, 95% of that target doesn't mean one shift. It has to be all your shifts within the probation period. So if you have 95% today and tomorrow you have, let's say, 50%, it can affect your overall score. So you have to be consistent. Consistency is also one of the requirements. So now another target is accuracy. So if the gun tells you to pick a shirt from aisle A, you have to pick a shirt from aisle A. You can't pick a trouser or a shoe. It has to be the right objects. You have to pick the right items. You must pick the right quantity. If the gun tells you to pick 36 t-shirts, for instance, you must pick 36 t-shirts. You can't pick 35 and you can't pick 37. It has to be 36 t-shirts, and it has to be t-shirts. So no matter how fast you are, you have to be accurate. So speed doesn't count if you're not picking the right items. So speed and accuracy work together. As you're being really fast, you also have to make sure that you're picking the right items. Now, another thing that you need to work on, if you don't want to get dismissed like I was, clock and attendance targets. This is another target that you have to meet up with. So you have to clock in on time. You must complete your full shift. You must also have low absence rates. You can't afford to call in sick every now and then. And this last one, I think this also affected me, is following break times. If you have 15 minutes, this was the mistake I made, which I want you all to learn from. This particular point is very important because that's one of the mistakes that I made. So it is following break times. If we all go on break at the same time. Everybody go on break at the same time. So let's say you're working night shift and your break time is 12:30. And you're supposed to go on break between 12:30 and 12:45 if you're to go on break for just 15 minutes. Wherever you are, make sure you leave 5 minutes allowance just for you to walk from wherever you've gone on break, whether it's the canteen or it's just the coffee break you're having, or wherever it is you're having, or if you're just at the vending machine or wherever it is, because it's a big warehouse and you can literally walk 10 minutes from one point to another. So if you're going on a 15 minutes break, you have to consider adding 5 minutes to your, is it adding now or subtracting? Subtracting 5 minutes from that 15 minutes for you to walk back to where your gun is and where you've packed your totes. So let's say you went on break while you were at aisle A, and the vending machine or the coffee shop or the canteen is 5 minutes walk from where you've packed your totes. Please and please and please and please leave the canteen 5 minutes before the end of the break. If you leave the canteen or where you're having your break at the exact time that your break ends, you might now get to where you've packed your totes 5 minutes after, or even 10 minutes after the break. Bear in mind, your gun starts to read at exactly 12:45. And if you're not there at 12:45, the gun automatically picks you up as inactive. They don't want to know if you are walking within that time, or if you're stuck in the elevator, or if you're in the bathroom, or if you're anywhere. The gun does not want to know, because it's a programmed device. Once you've not logged back into the gun exactly 15 minutes after your break, it automatically picks you up as inactive. So this was one of the mistakes that I made. So I would leave my break time. I would leave wherever I had my break at exactly when the breaks end. And that's what most people do. So I felt it was normal to do that. I didn't know that people had other strategies, like probably running, or basically it was later on on the job I learned this, that okay, you have to give allowance. But by then it was late. It was almost late. So that's one thing you should also please take note of. Another target that they take very seriously in most and all of these warehouses or retail organizations is health and safety targets. Health and safety generally. And that includes, always putting on your PPE. PPE kits are your gloves, your safety boots, your safety caps, they'll provide you with all of these PPEs. So you must always wear them at every point in time for your own safety even. You're not actually doing them a favor by wearing it. It's actually to protect you. So if they find you not wearing it at any point, nobody might call you to say, oh look, why are you not wearing your cap? Why you just, take out your points. So at every point, you must always be on your PPE kits, your jackets, your boots, your caps, and your gloves, as the case may be. Another one that falls under the health and safety target is manual handling. So during your training, they will train you on how to use a lot of equipment, and how to push a lot of things, and how to handle things, how to carry this, how to carry that. So they will take note of all these things. If you're really using these things the way they taught you, and if you're carrying the things the way you have been trained, all these things are very important. And somebody somewhere is actually watching and taking notes of how you are lifting things, if you are using the right elevators for what, if you are carrying things the right way, if you are following the right trainings they gave to you. So all these things are things that they actually take seriously. Yes, so somebody somewhere is actually observing you. If you've been corrected before. They're observing your willingness and your attitude towards improvement, so all these things matter a lot. Yes, I think I already mentioned this point before. Consistency is also very important. One good shift is not enough. Out of 3 months, if you've been good for 8 weeks, it will not count if you make 1 mistake or 2. So you have to be consistent all through your 3 months of probation. 1 good shift or 2 good shifts are not enough. You have to be good all the way. At least for 99% of the time you spend there, you have to be good. So consistency is what the supervisors also look out for. So again, 1 bad shift can actually rule out all the other 99 good shifts that you've done. So you have to be consistent. So now I'm going to repeat the points again. Everything that they look out for. Now in this particular order, number 1 is accuracy. You have to be accurate. You have to pick the right items. You have to pick the right amount of items. You have to pick it from the right place, drop it in the right place, scan it the right way, pack it the right way. So all these matter a lot. So accuracy has to be 99%. So accuracy before even speed. So you have to be accurate and then speed. Speed is next. You have to have a steady pace. Yes, you have to be fast. If you're picking 100 items per hour, you must pick 100 items per hour. If the gun picks that you have 98 items per hour, that automatically disqualifies you. So you have to also be accurate. At the same time, you have to be steady and quick. The third one is safety. Again, this cannot be overemphasized. You have to be safety conscious. You have to always be on your PPE, your safety boots, your cap. I didn't fall short in any of these. I'll tell you guys where I fell short later on. And that's it. After you've passed the probation stage, after you've completed your 100% accuracy, your speed, your safety awareness, that's it. Just 3 months, you've passed your probation, and after you've passed your probation, I doubt if they still really go and, supervise you. They still follow up with these things, obviously, but not as strict as when you're on probation, So nobody is checking you every day, to supervise you, to say, oh, how are you doing? But at the same time, you still have to do your job very well, obviously, but it's not as intense as when you're trying to get permanent on the job. Now, so the next question you may want to ask is, how do you know how you are performing during the probation? How to know is that there's usually a performance review once during your shifts, during the probation period. There's usually a performance. Let's say you're working 3 days this week, for instance. 1 day out of the 3 days, there will be a performance review. It's usually one-on-one. Where I worked at ASDA, it's usually one-on-one. It's usually a one-on-one seat review with your team leader. He calls you in the middle of your shift and then sits you down in an office and shows you your performance and how you're doing. So the system captures every time you were inactive, every time the gun shows that you are inactive, It could be a technical issue. And now that's one of the mistakes that I also made. Facing technical issues with your gun. Let's say you've come back from break, for instance, and your gun is slowing you down and you're unable to log in almost immediately after your break. And that's another reason why you should leave some allowance after your break, because sometimes the gun can also malfunction and that will add to your inactive time, which is not your fault. But I mean, sometimes nobody cares. You can't really defend these things. So that's one of the reasons why so it's almost like you're cheating yourself of your break time. But I mean, it is what it is. You just have to do whatever it takes, to retain the job and, stay on the job. So yes, every time you have an issue with your gun, always let the next available manager know. Just call the nearest person's attention to it. Don't try to figure it out on your own. It could backfire later. Whenever you have an issue with the gun just picks it as you're being inactive. So if you don't report yourself to anybody, they just assume that you're in one corner, Netflix and chilling. So yes, you have to always speak up when you have technical issues. Yes, so that's how the review process goes. That's how you know how you're performing. Somebody, your manager or your team lead, calls you into one office and then sits you and then shows you your performance. They actually show you, your performance sheets and how you're doing. Yes, so in my case, what was the issue? What was the problem? How did I lose the job? So, during one of those breaks, so where I fell short was the break times that I had. I was lost in the warehouse. I didn't know what I was looking for, to be honest. I think I was just bored and wanted to explore the whole warehouse. I wanted to use my break time to just explore other parts of the warehouse. And I was lost on a different floor completely. So by the time the break was over and I wanted to find my way back to where I parked my totes, I was almost, 10 minutes late after the break. So that picked me as inactive. That affected my score. Another thing that was quite discouraging for me on the job that also demotivated me was the fact that it was far from where I was living. I was living in Sunderland at the time, and this warehouse was at Washington. I had full attendance. I completed all the shifts. I clocked in on time. I didn't have any issues with all of that. The only problem I had was the night that I was lost in the warehouse. Then another problem that kept reoccurring for me that affected my overall my overall performance was my speed. Because whenever the shift starts, I start on a high level, and then along the line, I start to get tired. And considering the fact that the break was too short, it was a 30-minute break, but it was split into 2. It's a good job. I mean, it pays well. But yes, that's why I lost the job. I didn't meet up 2 months down the line. I didn't meet up with all the parameters. I could not meet up. And so therefore, I was dismissed. So if you're looking to do any of these jobs, learn from my mistakes. Yes, I hope this video was very helpful. And yes, I wish you all the best if you're looking to apply to any of this job. Till I see you in the next video again, please take care of yourselves and God bless you. Bye bye.